Hey everyone, this is Rabdeer's blog of Animation Bliss, and welcome to my new series, the Retro Animation Corner. Here I basically review cartoons that originated in the 1920s through the 1970s, because I consider the 1980s to be kind of new. So usually this is for cartoons where I review cartoons that came from the 1920s through the 1970s. So my first cartoon that I'm going to review today that came from the 1930s is none other than Popeye the Sailor Man. I actually had this DVD for a while now, so this is not like the complete series of Popeye the Sailor. It's like mainly on this tape. It's consisted of the Fleischer cartoon era and the famous studio cartoons, and this video was requested to me by Cahnman, and if you could check out their channel in the description box below. So let's get started on Popeye the Sailor Man. So basically, Popeye the Sailor Man is about a sailor named Popeye who, in every episode, he's usually trying to protect his girlfriend Olive Oil from Bluto, who's always trying to get Olive Oil and then always put her in great danger whenever Olive Oil starts refusing Bluto's advances. And Popeye powers himself up by eating a can of spinach, which gives him super strength, and he's able to beat Bluto in almost every episode due to the spinach giving him super strength. So that's pretty much the gist of the Popeye cartoons for the most part. There are some Popeye cartoons where they show Popeye actually going up against somebody other than Bluto, but it's like few and in between. And here's some interesting things about Popeye the Sailor. It actually originated as a comic strip from Thimble Theater. Like, I actually didn't know about this either until I looked it up on the internet. I was like, oh, Popeye actually originated from some comic strips from Thimble Theater in the 1920s. So it's like, oh, that's where it came from. So I didn't know much about Thimble Theater comic strips, but I knew a lot about Popeye the Sailor Man. So I was actually really surprised that Popeye the Sailor actually originated from a comic strip rather than from a series of cartoons like I was led to believe. And some of the most famous Popeye cartoons were the ones made by Max Fleischer and Dave Fleischer. They made the Popeye cartoon starting in 1933, I believe, and those were the most well-remembered Popeye cartoons, the Fleischer cartoons. Now, after the Fleischer cartoons, there were some other animation studios that had created the Popeye cartoons, like Famous Studios, the studios that's responsible for Casper the Friendly Ghost and Herman and Catnip cartoons. And then there was the King Syndicate Animation, something like that. They created the Popeye cartoons in the 1960s, and Hanna-Barbera eventually made their own version of Popeye the Sailor in the 1970s. Now, there was a Popeye movie starring Robin Williams in 1980. I didn't care for that version as much as I did for the cartoon, so that's just my opinion on the Popeye movie. I only saw bits and pieces of it, but for what I've saw, I think the cartoon series was a little better than the 1980 series, even though Robin Williams is one of my most favorite actors. But still, I didn't care much for the live action Popeye film in the 1980s. So anyway, that's my history with knowing about Popeye the Sailor Man, and my feelings about this show. I really enjoy Popeye the Sailor Man. I used to watch Popeye the Sailor all the time when I was little, along with Looney Tunes and other older cartoons that came from the 1920s and the 1930s. And Popeye is like one of those old time cartoons I used to watch a lot when I was little. So I always enjoy how Popeye takes out a can of spinach and he gets himself powered up just by eating spinach. That was something that I thought was really unique about the Popeye cartoons, was the fact that he gets his strength from spinach. So that was a great creative move with Popeye. Yeah, I didn't mind that all the episodes always had to center around Popeye trying to rescue Olive Oil from Bluto, because back then a lot of cartoons were repetitive when it came to storylines. I think it wasn't until the 1960s, starting with the Flintstones, that some cartoons started to develop story arcs for their characters or start doing more different things for the characters. So yeah, we have to thank the Flintstones for that. But yeah, as far as Popeye goes, I didn't mind that each episode was about Popeye trying to save Olive Oil from Bluto, because all these episodes just interest me so much because of how how creative they could get with how Popeye defeats Bluto. Sometimes it gets really creative at times. How Popeye defeats Bluto, or how sometimes Bluto has the upper hand on Popeye, and you wonder to yourself, is Popeye going to make it out of this alive? Is he going to rescue Olive Oil? What's going to become of Olive if Popeye doesn't rescue her time? So you have those scenarios that happen in each episode of Popeye that really works well for the show. Like, and then as far as some things I didn't like about the show, sometimes I do get a little annoyed with Olive Oil because she's like, it looks like she's putting herself in these situations and Popeye always has to bail her out. I did like how in some of the famous studio cartoons they did try to develop Olive's character a little more. Like they actually made her like become a cop in one episode, which I really liked. And I liked the episode where she wanted to be president, so that was something that they were trying to develop with Olive Oil. They also had moments where Olive was the one who saved the day and not Popeye, so by her eating the spinach. So I liked how in the famous studio cartoons and some of the later cartoons of all Popeye, they try to develop Olive's character better. They try to make her a more stronger protagonist in a sense. But yeah, there were times when I got annoyed with Olive because it's like there's one moment she likes Popeye, another moment she doesn't like Popeye, and goes on with Bluto for no reason at all. So that was just one main thing that annoyed me a lot about Popeye. And as far as which Popeye cartoons I used to watch a lot when I was little, I used to watch mostly the famous studio cartoons. I mean, I did watch a couple of Fleischer cartoons, and the Fleischer cartoons were the ones that I think really defined the Popeye as a character, or Popeye in the cartoon universe as the Fleischer cartoons. But I watched more of the famous studio cartoons because they were almost always on when I was little. And yeah, I did find them a bit more interesting in some cases, but that's just me. I think a lot of people like the Fleischer cartoons a little more because they really define Popeye as a character. But I personally like the famous studio cartoons, even though I did like some of the Fleischer cartoons. So, you know, it's not like a win-loss situation with me when it comes to Popeye. So overall, would I recommend Popeye the Sailor Man? Yes, definitely. I would recommend Popeye the Sailor to anybody who's a huge fan of older animation. I think Popeye is a classic animated series that you should definitely check out. He's definitely one of the most iconic cartoon characters of all time, next to Mickey Mouse and Bugs Bunny. So if you're a huge fan of old-time cartoons from the 1920s through the 1970s, Popeye is definitely one cartoon series you should definitely check out. Well, that's my review on Popeye the Sailor Man, and be sure to follow us on Tumblr, and to also like our Facebook page. And if there's any other requests that you want for this channel, please feel free to comment below. We'll see what we can do about it. Well, hope you enjoyed this review. This is Rabbit's blog of Animation Bliss, and I'll see you later.